Today we're going to look at uh, the grids and how they work, um, the energy grids around the planet. Just some history. The energy grids are supplied by higher dimensional beings for each planet, and not every planet has a properly designed energy grid. Many planets in our solar system and other solar systems and other galaxies are what are called dead planets. There's no energy in those, or very little energy in those planets. So what happens normally is the angelic beings come together and they do certain rituals on the planet, and they do certain implants of pylon grids in strategic areas to create a certain energy grid design. And the Earth's planetary grid design was called the Lion and the Eagle, because the outline of all the energy points, like in the stars, we call Leo and Sagittarius because of the shape of the stars. The energy grids here are placed in the design of the Lion and the Eagle. And when the Earth was tilted off its axis, it changed the design of the energy grids to what is called the Falcon and the Phoenix grids, which are Luciferian energy design. That they've replicated the entire universal system, but at a different frequency. So it's no longer connected into the universal frequencies. It's connected to what is called the astral fields, which are the same design, but at a semitone lower than the Earth's universal frequencies. So, and Earth's energy grids were built over millions of years. When Earth was first formed out of a planet called Tara, I think we've done some of this history in my coursework, but just a quick revision. Earth was a fragment of a planet called Tara, which 545 billion years ago was blown up by forces called the Lanians and the Muons, who are competing forces who later came to Earth, which is where we get the word Atlantean and Sumerian and the Lemuru. These are the Muon races. And when they were on Earth, they were competing for control of the Earth's energy grids. But anyway, Atlantis is no longer there, and Lemuria is no longer there. So the Earth has really been under the control of the fallen races here since the fall of Atlantis. Now, energy grids the Earth's energy grids are called the Atlantean Pylon Interface Network, the APIN. So it's an Atlantean Pylon Interface Network. And these pylon grids, which are deep crystal grids into the Earth's surface, were seeded here. They're not natural to the Earth. They were brought here and seeded into the planet by higher dimensional beings in order to create this flow of energy around the Earth. But they had to do certain other things that in order to activate these Atlantean pylon grids. And they had to re-establish the Earth's Merkaba field. And so they did certain things to the Earth in order to activate Earth's Merkaba field. And in my courses also speak about the Merkaba fields. And the Merkaba fields are really just the energy generation system of the grid. So the Merkaba fields activate the energies within the Earth's network. So it's like a electrical system. You have the energy generation, you have energy transmission, and then you have the energy distribution. And it works exactly the same in the energy grids here. And in fact, all grids work that way. For instance, our cell phone grids work in exactly the same way. You have a system of towers or pylons around the Earth, and there is a central exchange that activates and creates the frequencies necessary in order to participate in that energy grid. Now, on Earth, the cell phone companies have a license from the licensing authorities to work within certain frequency bands. So it's ownership of the airwaves, if you like. And radio systems and TV systems work in the same way. It's just so that there aren't any clashes in the use of certain frequencies on the planet. These are long, short, medium wave frequencies, frequency modulation, which then you get the microwave frequencies, which the 1G, 2G, 3G, and 5G systems are based on microwaves. The microwaves are very short waves, and they have a very high frequency. But being short waves, they need these towers, line of sight towers, in order to transmit the signal, receive the signal, and transmit it on. So the whole Earth is now covered by a whole bunch of towers, which are generating microwaves around the Earth. Now that may not be troubling to some people, but for me that's very troubling because it's to what end is that? What are they doing there? Why has this energy network been created? But having said that, in the Earth's grids, the pylons are the macro version, but the humans are the micro version. In fact, it's not just humans, it's humans, trees, plants, animals, insects. They're all micro versions of the planetary system. For instance, in our bodies, we have a meridian line system, which is used in acupuncture, which are way energy is carried through the body. Now, an important thing to remember is that these pylon grids are binary, and they bipolar. In other words, they have both the positive and the negative. They're able to receive the positive and generate the negative, receive electric energies and generate magnetic energy. So, but the lines, the energy grids in between are monopolar. So it starts out as an electric signal and it stays an electric signal. And the magnetic signal stays a magnetic wave. So these electric and magnetic waves are monopolar, but the pylon grid itself is bipolar. Now, in the same way, humans as grid keepers, we become bipolar beings. So we are able to generate electrical waves, and we're able to attract negative or magnetic waves. And in that way, we from person to person and from person to plant, person to bird, person to animal, we are all generating these electrical waves. So we are magnificent energy, not only generators, but transmitters and distributors. So it's very important to understand grids per se, because, for instance, in the cell phone network, the grids are always there, but it's only when you dial in to the network that you use the cell phone grids. Now, in the same way, we have to learn how to dial in to the energy grids. And then the instrument, the cell phone, has to be pre-programmed to be able to receive the energy at those specific frequencies. And that's how your cell phone company or service provider is able to control the flow and charge people, because you can only work at the frequencies that they control. Now, in our system, we have to learn how to dial into the Earth's energy grids, and we have to learn how to interact with them. Okay. And in order to do that, it requires two basic things. The one is authenticity, and the other is integrity. Because authenticity is your expression of who you really are as a soul being, not who you really are as you think you are, or as you've been portrayed to be. So we have to really get in touch with the inner soul person to understand that. And for me, doing that, it was a very transformative process, because the more I worked on my inner self, I tried to identify who is this person called Colin. I didn't know. I was acting out a role. I was role-playing something that had been fed into me. And many people are like that. They're inauthentic. They haven't discovered who they really are. But as you begin to discover more of who you are, and then you act out that person of who you really are, it changes everything. It's totally transformative, because you'll find that people, your friends and your family, won't recognize you anymore, because you're not role playing. You're not playing their role anymore.
Yeah. They don't like it. Yeah, sometimes. Yeah.
So one has to make a life choice there. Do I want to be able to dial into the Earth's energy grids, or do I want to stay inauthentic and not connect with the universal grids? And that's a big choice to make, because for me it was really transformative. And I lost a lot of friends, I lost a lot of family. My family thought I'd gone crazy, mad. I had all sorts of things, and they would say, "Dad, what's wrong with you? Why are you doing this?" They couldn't understand. And it took a lot of, I think, determination and courage and integrity to be able to do that. And I tried to explain to them that that I was being transformed inside. I was changing inside, and I was changing myself, becoming more of who I really am. But they couldn't understand that. They still wanted me to play out the roles that they had projected onto me. And because I was not cooperating with that, they found that very difficult to deal with. I have some family members, some nephews and nieces, who understand that, and have also, one particular niece has gone through a total transformation in her life, and is also doing a lot of the work that I'm doing. But it's not everybody who's going to be like that. I mean, most people thought I've gone completely crazy. When I say most, I really mean most, but there are some who just accepted me for who I was and for what I was, and they didn't judge me in any way. And these are wonderful people to have around you. So yeah, it's quite transformative. So we have to attenuate ourselves to be able to participate in the Earth's energy grids, and that requires authenticity and then integrity. And integrity is like a resonance within yourself. And you have to get in touch with that. This person called Colin, what resonates with me? And it's not what resonates with other people, it's what resonates with me. And I have to listen to that still small voice within me to say, is this right or is this wrong? And oftentimes that also means you go against the flow of what other mainstream thinking is, and mainstream philosophy and indoctrination and so on. There is. So, and I often, when I was waking up, I asked my higher self to try to explain what integrity was. And at the time I was a musician, and he said to me, you have a tuning fork, don't you? I said, yes. And he said, when you bang that tuning fork, it resonates at the same frequency every time. And I said, yes. And he said, well, that's what integrity is. To resonate authentically and have the same resonance all the time. He later told me that every manifest thing in the universe has a unique frequency signature. And it's important to know that authenticity that creates that resonance is quite unique. And no two resonances in the universe are exactly the same. It's all like a big tapestry, and every part of that tapestry is important in order to create the whole tapestry. And that's, in a sense, what a grid is. It's creating that tapestry of frequency and interconnectedness between one bipolar being and another bipolar being, so that the energy flows equally between them. So it's a living tapestry. So it's all about the chi life force energies that become real and constant and unified around us. That's often called the field. Sadly, a lady by the name, I can't remember her first name, McTaggart.
Lynn, isn't it? Yeah.
Lynn McTaggart wrote the book The Field, and that was one of the first books I read. And that got me interested in this thing called the field, which I later expanded my understanding to understand what the field is. So then the dialing sequence, another thing to activate your energy, soul energy grids. Another thing we have to do is activate our Merkaba fields. Now, everybody has a Merkaba field, but the important thing to remember is the alignment of the Merkaba field. The energy generation is created by two counter-rotating pyramid structures. They can be two or three or four, they can be 3 or 4-sided structures, but the 4-sided structure generates the most energy. So it's these counter-rotating. So in your mind's eye, I've got an exercise in my course on activating your Merkaba fields, aligning your Merkaba fields. But we have to start generating this life force energy from within ourselves. So it has to be a choice. It's something that we do knowingly and by agreement with ourselves. And And then another thing we have to do is align our chakras. Now that's where the dialing sequence comes in. It's the sound tone of each of your chakras from your lips and your mind that is your dialing sequence. So it opens up your chakras in order to activate and then be able to receive the energies around us in a certain layer of frequency. And the different tones are a, e, tre, I, na, a. And I used to do this exercise with myself. Often I would sit and just say a, e, tre, I, na, a, e, tre, I, na, a. So that, and then I would feel those energies, each one, and go through each one and to really feel that energy within. But in a sense, that's dialing into the Earth's energy grids. Then one has to dial into higher dimensional energy grids, where we use our chakras 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And they have different sound tones and different color tones attached to them, which is not really necessary for grid work, but in understanding the whole network, it's better to do that. But the initial dial-in sequence, as it were, when you dial your phone and you get connecting to the grid, the dialing sequence is uma, e, tre, I, na, e, uma, e, tre, I, na, e. Yeah, there's a lot about the energy grids and how we interact with them that we can go into. But a big part of this energy, learning the energy, is taking back control of the energies in our soul bodies. And the primary energies that we produce in our soul bodies are our thoughts and emotions. And in our next chat, we'll talk about how one takes back control of your thoughts and emotions. Because, for instance, when I was waking up, I discovered that I didn't feel. I was thinking my feelings. So my feelings at that time were a conditioned response that I'd learned how to respond to certain situations with a certain emotion. And that's not really an emotion. That's a thought response, a conditioned mind response to a certain situation and circumstance. So I had to go through a whole process of learning and how to feel and how to generate emotion, how to feel my emotions, and to align my thoughts with my emotions. Because, for instance, if you align your thoughts with love, love knows no enemies. It has no, love is graceful. Love doesn't judge. Love doesn't, love allows other beings to be who they be. And when you align your thoughts with that, so it takes a lot of our prejudgment away out of us. It takes away many of our prejudices, and it allows us just to accept things around us as they are, and to realize that we are just participants in that, but we don't have to actively participate in it. We can just be observers and neutral, because what other people do is nothing to do with me. That's their business. So it takes away all judgment of other people's actions and so on, which is very exciting. So in our next chat, we'll talk more about the aligning our thoughts and emotions, how to begin to feel your emotions and identify them, and how to identify the attitudes and standards and values that one requires in order to project that into our Earth's energy grids, but also into our society, so that what we portray ourselves to be in society is authentic, in integrity, with a higher standard and value, and with attitudes that are aligned with our standards and values. And you know, and this is quite difficult to achieve. In fact, it's my higher self said it's what they call mastery, the mastery of the self. So we're going to deal with that next week, and we'll go into a little bit of how that works. But I hope you're beginning to understand how the grid works and how we participate in the grid and how we have to dial in. So we have to activate ourselves in order to be conscious participants in the grid and open ourselves to the energy coming in, and to be able to identify that. And once one sets up one's own, your authenticity and your integrity, you've activated your Merkaba field, you've activated your chakra system, and you begin to understand it to become a living, breathing power grid, participant in the power grid, the universal power grid. And that's very exciting. For me it was, and that's how we can passively get our message through to the rest of the world. It doesn't, you know, when I think when Jesus said, not by might or by power, but by the Holy Spirit, that's, no, I think Paul said that, but that's what he was talking about. They understood energy. The Essenes understood energy. And Jesus was an Essene. He'd been taught by the Essenes. So they understood this, how this works. And I think that's what they meant, is by passively changing society, by changing ourselves. And by changing ourselves, we passively change the energies around us. And we'll deal with that a lot more in our next chat. So for now, we're dialing out.
Thank you.
That's Percy. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.